Was it beautiful today or what? Man, nice out there. We loved it. Glad to have you here. I gave several tours today. I think another one tomorrow. Bill visiting from Texas. Thank you for coming, Bill. Appreciate having you here. Okay, tonight we're going to be on January 6th. It's going to be that way all over the world. It might already be past that somewhere in the world. I'd have to think about that. Never mind. Okay, so January 6th, we're going to be talking about making babies. How does the sea sponge make babies? Sponges are pretty cool. Who put this one on my desk? Where did it come from?
I sent it to you 4 years ago, and it's been up top many dinosaurs.
Oh, okay. Rich, thank you, brother. This is, yeah. The more I study about nature, anyway, you'll see tonight. Okay, tonight, sponges, January the 6th. And no debate scheduled this month yet, so I'll be praying about that. Contradictions in the Bible we're doing on Tuesday night now, just for a little while to get some of them done. We covered the anglerfish. Nobody answered the question. We went through the steps of how they make babies and said, how did this process evolve by chance? Could you have a scientific answer? Or is it just a religious belief that it happened? And my contention is, it's nothing but a religious belief. There is no scientific answer to explain step by step how the tardigrade learned how to make babies, or the honeybee. What an amazing process. The male goes up, mates in the air, one time, she rips his hind end off and he dies. Who taught him to do it the first time? Did his daddy say, now son, look, you're going to get one shot at this, be careful, okay? No, okay. How about the watermelon, how they make babies? How about the starfish? So we covered that one. How about the praying mantis, where she eats his head off and he keeps going? Yeah, okay. What about the mud skippers? Nobody answered. What about the beavers? We got some in our lake down here. How about the frog? Give birth out of their mouth. Some give birth out of their back. I'd like to know a scientific answer. They claim evolution is science. I disagree. I think it's a religion. What about the ant? We covered that 2 weeks ago. Last week, the octopus. How did the first octopus male know? Look, you take your third arm, which has the sperm on it, you reach up into her nostril to the back of her brain and deposit it by the ovaries. And he does it one time and he dies. Then the babies grow up and they know how to do it, and they didn't go to school at all. Nobody taught them anything. Because mom and dad die when they're itty bitty. How did this evolve? I would like an answer, okay? How about these sponges? Oh, there's the octopus. There we go. Please give a step-by-step scientific answer how the octopus evolved the knowledge and the ability to reach his third arm into her nostril to the back of her brain and place his 7 billion sperm near her ovary. Who taught him that? Well, tonight, the sponge. I think it defies an explanation. If I said, I want you to explain how an ink pen came to be, but you cannot use man as your answer, I just blindfolded you at the first with the rules. Some of these people have already decided there's no God. Now, how do I explain everything? Well, you can't. With some things you just can't. Okay, real science. How sponges make babies. What is a sponge? Oh, okay. National Oceanic Service. I see. What is a sponge? A simple aquatic animal. There's nothing simple about it, fellas, okay? We'll talk about that in a minute. Highly adapted to their environments. See, they're not allowed to use the word designed or it won't get published, right? They'll lose their job, actually. Come on. Sponge classification. There are 4 different kinds of sponges, 5,000 to 10,000 varieties. Nobody's even sure how many. The sponge is amazing. It's got little things that whip around that suck water in from the sides, shoot it out the top. The sponge. It's got this little flagellum spinning around in there. Now, do you really think this happened by chance? Give me an explanation. I'd like to hear it, all right? Let's see. Super cool sponge facts. You can learn all about the sponges. There are all kinds of, how many types of sponges? This guy says 5,000. Some say 10,000. I don't think they know, but there's a lot, okay? Let's see. 150 species live in fresh water. Most of them live in the ocean, in the salt water. What are the 4 basic types of sponges? Each type is classified based on the presence or composition of its spicules or spongin, the spongin material. Sponges, Randall, you got me started on this. I'm going to blame you for losing sleep the last 2 weeks, okay? They're amazing. Is it a plant? This misspelling here. Is it a plant or an animal? Sea sponges are not plants. They are relatively basic, multicellular animals without a brain. I had some students like that when I taught school. Or a central nervous system. Now hold it. This thing knows how to make babies and it doesn't have a brain or central nervous system. They don't have tissues or organs like other animals do. They have specialized cells to perform necessary functions. Wow. No brain. SpongeBob. Perfect. They have tissues or organs. Let's see. Sponges are classified as invertebrate. Vertebrae means backbone. They don't have a backbone. So they're invertebrates, like an octopus and many creatures that don't have a backbone. Which means they don't have backbones. They make up an entire phylum of animals. They come in many different colors, sizes, shapes. And since very few animals eat them, they can live for a very long time. Some have been found to live over 200 years. A sponge. Their skeleton is formed from spicules made of silica, like glass, calcium and calcium carbonate, and spongin, a protein that supports the spicules. Sponges. You can study this the rest of your life and not scratch the surface of what there is to know about sponges. See, those are the things we know. We don't even know the things that we don't know. There's a whole lot more to learn about these. They are amazing critters, okay? Some sponges grow quite large. This is a barrel sponge. It's nearly large enough for the diver to climb right inside. Other barrel sponges get bigger than this. That's a big sponge. Yeah. Sponges. All different sizes, all different shapes. They don't have a heart. They don't have a pump. But they make water suck in through the skin, if you call it the skin, the sides, and flow out the top. This keeps the nutrients coming in. Don't you have to go grocery shopping? They can't move. They're stuck in the ground. They bring the groceries to themselves. Interesting. Let's see. The collar cell. Independent beating of many flagella force water out of the large osseum and pull water in through the ostia. Who taught them how to do this? See, for millions of years, they didn't have the little flagellum, and they all died. None of them lived for millions of years till they finally evolved this complex machine to move the water around. Particles of food are drawn into the collar to become trapped and then engulfed by the cell body and digested in the food vacuum. Well, how did that system of digesting food evolve? How did they live until it evolved? They just make up these stories that it happened. These little flagella are moving the water to pump it out the top. Filter feeding. Suck it in, blow it out. Suck it in, blow it out. SpongeBob. Yeah, go get him, SpongeBob. Okay. Sponges have been around a very long time. Certain species have a fossil record that dates back 600 million years. Whoa, that's a long time. Let's see. To the earliest Precambrian. I tell people, they get mad at me when I say this, there's no such thing as a Precambrian or a Jurassic or the whole geologic column does not exist except in the imagination. They say the top layer is younger. I say, stop and think. How can it be younger? Where did it come from? Outer space? Are these layers being added to the Earth from outer space? Moving it from here to here doesn't change the date. If I shuffle a deck of cards, that doesn't change. Is the top one younger? No. The whole geologic column is the Bible to the atheist. That's their Bible, and it doesn't exist. I'll challenge any of them on that. There's no such thing as a geologic column. Anyway, no such thing as a Cambrian or Precambrian. Anyway, there's 8,550 living species of sponges. Okay? The other guy said 5,000. Some say 10,000. I don't care. There's a bunch, okay? Let's see. There's the rare glass sponge. Whoa. Glass sponge. Classification. Let's see. These have spicules. These are like the bath sponge you take a bath with. These are reef sponges. The glass sponge. I got off on a rabbit trail. I couldn't quit searching all the internet about the glass sponge. Here it is from Hovind University. The glass sponge. Scientists often look to biology for inspiration and innovation. Wait. You mean the things we see in nature already have things we like design, things we can learn from? You mean our engineers should study the sponge? I thought the sponge happened by chance. Creatures of ocean depths are some of the most mysterious and fascinating subjects of study due to the challenges of collecting them from very deep waters and for their unique adaptations. Whoa. So the sponge is adapted to living in deep water, sucking in food, pushing water out the top, making babies. It just adapted to that? Well, then I have a question. How did it live before it adapted to this? Is that a reasonable question? Why don't they answer it? Come on, guys. Let's see. Sea sponges produce elaborate skeletal systems of glass. Oh. They produce? Isn't that a word, indicating some kind of intelligence or, design? Glass sponges are, I think, stunning. I'd like to get some for the Science Center here if you got some. Glass sponge. Look at that. See, nobody made it. Made itself. Glass sponge. I think you could study it the rest of your life and just scratch your head and say, how? Some of them are 10 foot long, one sponge. 11,000-year-old sponge has a hidden use. Oh, really? Yep. The sponge record can tell scientists about the climate of the past. Whoa. It belongs to the glass sponges, which have a skeleton made of silicon. For many years, scientists imagined that the deep ocean is empty of life. But after a telegraph cable was pulled from the ocean floor, covered with marine creatures in 1860, scientific expeditions sailed around the world, dredging the depths to find out what lived there. The Challenger expedition spent 3 years circumnavigating the globe, first discovered glass sponges in the 1870s. Wow, let's see. The spicule, more than 9 feet long, this glass sponge was discovered. No other animal makes silicon structures as large as the spicules of the chuni. I see. Lee's lab did an article on this one about glass sponges began as cellular embryos, like other creatures of their kind. You can read all about that. While sponges, like corals, are immobile aquatic invertebrates. So they don't move, they stick to the ground, most of them to a rock, some to a clamshell, some have learned to stick to the mud. They got a bunch of little roots out there, but they don't want to move, they stay still. So how do they find Mrs. Sponge to make a baby with if none of them can move? No contact sex. That sounds real boring, but anyway. Okay. A very distinct anatomy. Whoa. A reproductive process. Main differences. Corals are complex, many-celled organisms. Sponges are very simple, with no tissues. No, they're not very simple, guys. Not very simple at all, okay? Sponges are very simple with no tissues. All corals require salt water to survive. Most sponges are found in the ocean. Some are found in fresh water. So they have 4 different classes of sponges. I'm sorry, 4 different other types of invertebrates. There are 4 kinds of sponges. You have the worms, echinoderms, jellyfish, and sponges. Let's see. Regardless of the differences, sponges are important inhabitants of coral reef ecosystems. They've discovered if there weren't any sponges, the whole coral reef would probably die. They're part of a bigger picture. What if there was nobody in America delivering fuel? Wouldn't that pretty quickly create a problem? What if there was nobody in America delivering the mail? Ben Franklin invented our mail system. I think that's a pretty good idea. One guy said, well, I think the days in Genesis are millions of years. I said, well, you got the plants on day 3, animals on day 5. Plants breathe in CO2, give off oxygen. Wouldn't they quickly use up all the CO2? Because animals breathe in oxygen and give off CO2. They reciprocate the gases. I think they had to be made within a few days of each other. You really think one evolved and stuck around for millions of years? Okay. Let's see. A diverse sponge population can affect water quality on the reef as sponges filter water, collect bacteria, process carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Wow. They make carbon biologically available by excreting a form of sponge poop that other organisms feed on. I don't want to be a sponge. Let's see. Fueling productivity throughout the ecosystem. So they're a vital step in the system to make the reef grow. Oh. A sponge's skeletal type adapts well. Well, they always use that word adapt. They can never say it was designed for, or can't say that. Do you know the lug nuts on my Chevy have adapted to fit on the studs? No, they're designed to fit on the studs. Okay. Allowing it to live on hard, rocky surfaces or soft sediments like sand or mud. Some sponges attach themselves to floating debris. Rarely are they found completely free-floating. They reproduce asexually. They just decide to make a baby, so they grow a new arm, break it off, let it float over, and start somewhere else. Who taught them that? Outgrowth begins at the base to grow at the base. So it's called budding. New one pops off. Oh, hey, go start a new colony, buddy. There you go. All right. So if they can't find a female nearby, oh, let's just break off a branch. Sexual reproduction of sponges involves a larva stage that moves. So daddy doesn't move, mommy doesn't move, the baby is able to move until it finds a place to live. Strange. Adult sponges stay in one place. Sponge reproduction. They're hermaphrodites. Some of them produce male and female. Same one. They're both male and female. Part of their cells are male, part are female in the same animal. How did that evolve? Sponges produce sexually by releasing eggs and sperm into the water from the osculum. Cross-fertilize each other's eggs. So, sponge reproduction. Sexual is also common. Most are hermaphrodites. They produce both the egg and the sperm, but pretty soon you'd get inbreeding. And so they want to make sure they move and breed with a different sponge to, crossbreed, okay? Spawning. They put off huge amounts of sperm. I couldn't find the number, like we did with the octopus, 7 billion sperm they inject. Make sure one of them gets there. The biology of glass sponges from PubMed. Abstract. In the areas of molecular evolution, the evolution of conduction systems, okay, sponges have attracted attention. Somebody's trying to figure out, how did this evolve? Well, you keep studying. I think you'll find it's not possible to explain how it evolved. You're going to have to somewhere say, there must have been a designer. I know that hurts, I know it hurts, but there had to be a designer. Here's the problem. Once you admit there's a designer, then you really got a problem. Because that means he owns it, and he might make some rules. Oh, they don't want them rules. Okay, sponges, let's see. Interesting, because their unique histology, the greater part of their soft tissue consists of a single multinucleate syntium that ramifies throughout the sponge. They don't have tissues like we do. Sponges have a cellular grade of organization. They do not possess any structures that can be considered organs. No stomach, no kidneys. Instead, sponge cells of various types are responsible for bodily functions, the day-to-day activities that sustain life. Many of the most common types of cells are illustrated below in a cartoon view of the wall of a porphyrion. Freshwater sponges, as well as others, possess the remarkable ability to produce specialized bodies called gemmules. Doesn't that almost sound like, intelligence or design? Oh, no, it evolved. Yeah, we know it evolved. Okay, we got it. Which survive during unfavorable conditions. So the sponge produces a gemmule, which is basically going to be the baby sponge, and it can wrap it up in a protective coat with food. Each one comes bundled with food, and if everybody else dies because something's going wrong on the reef and all the sponges are dying, it just sends off the gemmules knowing, hey, you'll take over when I die, son. And then they grow. How did that process evolve, okay? Which survive during unfavorable conditions and germinate to produce new sponges. For gemmule formation, the archaeolites laden with food material in the form of glycoprotein, these ambiocytes surround the central mass of archocytes and secrete a thick, hard, chitinous inner layer. So hold it. This fella right here, his job is to secrete the stuff to surround the new baby. He knows how to wrap up the new baby sponge with a food particle and put a protective coating to let it live until it can find a new home. And you really think nobody designed this? Who taught you that? Get your money back. The scleroblasts secrete. That sounds like, something that needed to be designed to do. That just happened? A fully formed gemmula is a small hard ball having a mass of food-laden archaeocytes enclosed in a double-layered tough envelope. There's a small opening in the micropyle through which the cell comes out during development. So the ambiocyte wraps it up some. This guy secretes silica, this cell in the sponge, which doesn't have a brain. This cell knows how to make silica to protect it. So this guy knows how to make the silica to help wrap up the baby sponge. I see. In autumn, freshwater sponges die and disintegrate, leaving behind a large number of gemmules. Now, how did they evolve this ability to make their babies and let this package with food and they die, and then the next season they come out again. Do you really think nobody designed this? Okay. Same thing happens during summer when water is low. In favorable conditions with abundance of water, the gemmules begin to hatch, and their living contents escape through the micropiles and develop into new sponges by collecting themselves together. They don't have a brain. So who tells them, hey, all you guys get over here, let's get together, make a new sponge? Who taught them this? Sexual reproduction involves formation of sperms and ova. The sex cells arise in several different places. Okay? Most sponges are hermaphrodite. Cross-fertilization is the rule because eggs and sperms are produced at different times. How did it learn that? Sexual reproduction involves formation. I did that, okay? Eggs and sperm evolve at the same time. Corn is an example. It'll produce both the male and the female flower on the same stalk. That's why up in Illinois, where I'm from, they would pay all the kids to go out and detassel the corn. You ever do that? Oh, detasseling, yeah, where your hands out, come home all bleeding and everything. Because you want to get the tassels off to make sure they cross-pollinate. Yeah, I see, okay. The okites are produced inside, wait a minute, produced? Look how many words, to me anyway, sounded like, some level of intelligence or design, formation, involved, form, leave the body. Did this all really happen by chance with no designer? I used to believe all that. I said, I can't believe that anymore. Let's see. Sperm from water enter the body. Oh, enter. Just happened, okay? And some other cells trap it. Acting as nurse cells, the choanocytes transport the sperm body. They transport it without the tail to the mature ova. So the sperm comes in, this one cell snags it, cuts the tail off, drags it over where it needs to go, and attaches it. And nobody designed any of this. So the guys who believe in evolution, I think they owe us an answer. Could you please give us a scientific step-by-step, how did this process happen? You want us to pay to have that taught as science. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. You say, well, it's here. Well, I agree it's here. It doesn't prove it happened by chance. See, they start off with the assumption, there's no God. Now, figure out how it happened. Well, it's like me asking the question, why are elephants orange? You can't change the question, just answer the question. Why are they orange? They're not orange. You failed the test, get out. Okay. They wait. The sperm nucleus then fuses with the nucleus of the ovum, ensuring internal fertilization. So the process is so efficient, it makes sure that it works. This is animals that have no brain, in the dark, way down deep in the ocean, can't see each other. How does an animal that can't move and has no brain or nervous system know to make complex sperm cells and release them to hopefully land on another sponge with egg cells to make babies? That's what happens trillions of times in the ocean. And then the baby swims off and grows a new sponge. I would like an answer. The evolutionists have not answered any of my questions on how these animals or plants learn to make babies. How do baby sponges with no brain or nervous system know to leave their mother and float away and put down roots so they can't move? How does it know to make cells inside itself that can move water through and pick out the food? That's what they do. It looks like thousands of things have to be just right to make it work. Any one of those thousands could go wrong and stop it from working. You call evolution science, so my question is simple. How did this evolve? Billy, you've been working on cars most of your life. How many things have to be right to make an engine run? Thousands. How many things have to be wrong to make it not run? Any one of thousands. Any one. Having a loose nut behind the wheel? Yeah. Right. I know. You have to imagine it happened long ago and far away. Evolution only takes place in the imagination. Only. You have to imagine. I'm sorry, my bad. I didn't finish getting all my education from the government schools so I could enhance my imagination enough to believe in evolution. Do you ever wish your handlers and publishers would allow you to just marvel at the world and give God the glory? Evolutionists, do you ever study anything in nature and just wish you would be allowed to marvel at it? You're not. You have to give evolution the credit. You watch all the articles that get published. This creature evolved. This happened by chance over billions of years. We know this just happened. Do you ever wish they would leave you alone so you could just simply marvel? Do you really believe it all came from a dot of nothing exploding? Do you really believe there's no designer, no purpose to life? Really? I wish you could just be allowed to stop and think. Do you really believe that? Here's the sponge producing bazillions of sperm. 5,000 different kinds of sponges with no brain evolved the complex ability to make babies with no designer. Is that your final answer? Is that the answer you're going to give to the designer of not only the sponges, but everything in the universe? Right. Don't you think that answer is going to look stupid on Judgment Day? Do you ever just stop to wonder? All through the Bible it says, stand still, consider. Psalm 5, give ear to my words, consider my meditation. Psalm 8, when I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon, the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? You can study just about anything in the world, in the universe, and it should bring you to, wow, this is amazing. Somebody sent me a little bitty stapler that looks like a dinosaur head. That is cool. Is there any chance this could have happened by chance? I don't see any chance. I don't have a problem marveling. Wow, that's pretty cool. That designer was pretty smart. Why can't you give credit to the designer? How about a tape dispenser that's a dinosaur on his belly? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That way, when you get bored, you can always listen to a tape. Do you think a piece of Scotch tape could happen by chance? It almost looks like somebody designed it, doesn't it? I'm baffled. I just don't understand. And I'm trying to understand. In my 315 debates, I'm trying to understand. Who taught you this and why did you believe it? Do you ever wish you could just honestly consider? Straightway, one of them ran and took a sponge. Now, the King James spelling was a little different than our spelling. I got a U instead of an O. And filled it with vinegar, put it on a reed, and gave him to drink. There's only 3 times in the Bible where sponges are mentioned. All of them at the crucifixion. The only time sponges are mentioned in the Bible. Now, he did that so you could be saved. Only mention of sponges. Romans 1, the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God, there are things you can learn about God just by studying a sponge. Like, wow, he thinks of everything. This thing with no brain can eat, make babies, poop. No brain. There's things you can know about God. He designed some amazing stuff. Let's see. That which may be known of God is manifest in them. They already know. For God hath showed it to them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. You can understand quite a bit about God by studying the things that are made. I bet I could understand something about the guy who made this by studying it and saying, well, he must know some mathematics. He must know some physics. He got the right size spring in here to pull the thing forward to slide the staples up. He must have some knowledge of metals to make it out of the right metal. He must know to prevent it from rusting, you got to chrome plate the pieces or it'll rust. He must know something about plastics and design. I bet I don't have any idea. Let's see, where did it made? China. Who would have thunk it? Okay. I bet just by studying the thing that was made, I could learn something about the guy who made it, couldn't I? Yeah. Well, you ought to be able to study the things in nature and learn something about the God who made them. Being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power in Godhead, so they are without excuse. It ain't going to work Judgment Day. So you're going to get up there and say, I saw all the things in nature, I studied them, I earned 25 degrees, I think it happened by chance. You really think that's going to fly? Okay. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful. There's the problem. They just can't say, thank you, Lord. Right. Became vain in their imagination, SpongeBob, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, oh boy, do they do that. Don't they? Yeah. They became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God to an image made like to corruptible man, to birds, four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore, God also gave them up. I just feel that way sometimes. God has given up to uncleanness through the lust of their own heart, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever, amen. For this cause, God gave them up. Twice, he gave them up. Unto vile affections. For even the women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meet. How many diseases are spread that way? And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over. Gave them up, gave them up, gave them over. Okay, I give up. I'm not going to help you anymore. He gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetous, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. What a sad commentary on society today. So, the sponge. Simple question. Do you really believe nobody made it? All you evolutionists, pay attention. Send in your comments. Where's the scientific, step-by-step evidence for how this evolved? I would like to see it. Honestly, I really would. If you want to have a debate over it, call Standing for Truth. I'll have a debate. We could all month. We'll do one every day, 5 a day if you want. Come on. How did it evolve? Step by step. I mean, a real science, not just a story. How did it evolve? Okay, questions and comments. Randall, what do you got there? All right. Any questions here from the crowd here or comments? Or? Okay. So you believe in judgment. Who's the judge? Oh, absolutely. The Creator is the judge. Now, here's the problem. I believe there has to be a designer. I believe there was a designer of this thing. I think that's common sense. And one cell in your body is 1 trillion times more complex than a stapler, okay? Quadrillion times, okay? Quintillion, sextillion, octillion, novillion, decillion. It's a lot more complicated. One cell. I believe there was a designer. I believe the evidence shows clearly there must be a God. Had to be. Now, I'm not asking for my theory to be taught. I understand. I cannot prove that. I can't show you scientifically. I admit mine's a religion. The evolutionists do not admit theirs is a religion. Because then everybody would say, why are we paying for your religion to be taught in the schools? Great question. Why are we? Why don't you teach science in science class and leave both theories out? There's no scientific proof for evolution. Even if it's true, it can't be part of science. Even if it's true, that may sound crazy, but you can't demonstrate it. Science comes from the Latin word seer. What do we know? Knowledge gained by observation, experimentation, and testing. We know cows produce cows. That we know. We do not know that cows and bananas are related. Now, you can believe that if you want, and you can give all the reasons why you believe it. Look at the DNA structure and the chromosome number, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. You don't know that cows and bananas are related. You believe they are. And you might have your evidences. Wonderful, great, congratulations. But it's not science. So why do we all have to pay for your religion to be taught? That's all. I think my religion is true, but I'm not demanding it be taught. Okay, long answer to your question, because I sense from the question you have an ulterior motive there, okay? Any other ones there? Okay. Huh? A lot of arguing. Well, some of you keyboard warriors call standing for truth, schedule a debate. All right. No Bible study tomorrow. Sunday morning, Philippians chapter 4. Then Monday night, supposed contradictions in the Bible. They're always coming up with this. I say, first of all, if there were contradictions in the Bible and you could find the Bible's not true, that still doesn't make evolution true, does it? Doesn't help you at all. You can spend the rest of your life picking it. You know, the Bible is the anvil that has worn out many hammers. Many hammers been worn out on that anvil. We'll talk about one, maybe two or three of the supposed contradictions Monday night. If you have any you'd like particularly discussed, somebody called me today as I was driving to the store and back, said, is there a contradiction? Judas hanged himself. Another verse says he fell down and his bowels gushed out. Is that a contradiction? Oh, no. He could hang himself and the limb breaks and he falls down and breaks open. He could hang himself and the rope breaks and he falls down. And if he fell down and busted open, he must have been rotten. So he must have hung there for a while. Maybe he hung there for a while till his head came off and he fell down and broke. There's all kinds. It's not a contradiction. It's a continuation of the story. He hung himself and fell down and his bowels gushed out. But you guys that hate the Bible, you're not going to believe me. That's okay. We'll see Judgment Day. Any more? No questions?